in a talk there 11 p.m. and then had to field a bunch of follow-up until about 1, and then had to be up at 6 for a call with Cambridge to talk to Marcelo Fiore, who's working with Kristen Williams on the ladle stuff. So yes. The fun never stops.
That's the spirit, Greg.
Well, Kelly, you wanna kick off the technical update?
Yeah, let's get started. Plopping a link here in the chat and navigating to share my screen here. Alrighty. Yikes. It's kind of messy. This is a mess. I'm down to one monitor while I am traveling, and it is hard for me. All right. Hey, everyone. This is our community update. We are in the last few days of our current sprint, which is sprint number 32. I've talked in detail about the bullet points that you see here under the word sprint, so I'm not going to spend a tremendous amount of time there. I also would add that we are in the process of planning for sprint 33, which starts on Monday. And those meetings are in process. We had one today. We'll have a couple before the end of this week to make sure that we have a good plan in place. We did release our node 9.9 this week. It came fast on the heels of the release of 9.8, largely because we had a fix for a critical bug that was preventing use of the block store. And this is a big limitation, both to our node operators who would like to use the public testnet, as well as, frankly, to our validators who support the public testnet. And so Daniel was able to get a fix in quite quickly, and we wanted to release that and start using it very quickly. So that is why 9.9 came out so soon. It is why it is a smaller release as comparison to our others. It doesn't reflect the work of 2 weeks. It reflects the work of about a half a week. We do intend to, however, release our node 9.10 sometime next week, because it does add features that we had worked towards this sprint, and we would like to bring those not only to our development testnet, but also into the hands of our node operators. So testnet is live. It was bounced and upgraded to 9.9. We did just a couple hours ago, we are in the process of trying to reproduce a scenario we observed over the weekend. I'll talk more about that in a moment, but if you are a testnet user, you will have noticed that the activity bumped up significantly over the past several hours, as we are not only having our validators propose, but also deploy rolling to the testnet. We will not be doing a community test tomorrow. It is the U.S. Independence holiday, and I will be observing that. So we will not do a community test. We will resume our community tests on the following Thursday, which is July 10th at 1400 UTC. I'm not going to go back over the blockers to testnet 2 and risks to code completion for Mercury. They have not changed in terms of what they are. I do get a lot of questions from individuals, in DMs or in the public Discord about, when is testnet 2. I can't give you a date right now of when is testnet 2. What I can absolutely point you to is that if you take a look at RChain 3168, and let's just open it for fun here, you can see quite clearly those issues that are blocking the launch of testnet 2. You can see what their status is. The ones that are to do clearly need to be done, but they are most of them are blocked by other things that are currently in progress. So, for example, the process for testnet users to pull out rev is kind of related to cost accounting. So we very much are in progress with this. It's absolutely a priority for the team. We're not at a point yet, though, where I can say, we're within a few days of launching testnet 2. All of these things are currently in flight. Let's get back to our page here. So talking a little bit, I'm going to go component by component. The consensus team is on track to open all of the PRs that are needed for delivering the building blocks for bonding and unbonding. These are rolling methods that the consensus team needs to complete that validation protocol. We're on track to have all of those PRs open by the end of this sprint. We will pick up making sure those get merged by early next week, so that can pick up building out this protocol. We are working to, I guess this sprint's work to deliver Peak and Casper revealed an alternative proposal. The team spent quite a bit of time talking about that today. It is documented in the link that's provided here if you would like to take a look. Where we left it is that this proposal does require additional research. It's not clear that this is the right thing to do. Certainly it's not clear that this is the right thing to do at this time. And my hunch is that it's not something that we would do prior to Mercury, but you're welcome to take a look at what we're trying to resolve, the problem we're trying to resolve, and the proposals that are on the table. One is currently in flight, and one would need more research before we took action on it. On the rolling team, you can celebrate with me that we are down to debugging just 5 failing Casper tests related to cost accounting. If you'll recall, back from a few weeks ago, we were at 30. So this has been a collaborative effort on the team. Really grateful for their focus and dedication to getting that done. Once we are done with those 5 failing tests, the next steps will be making sure the refund works correctly, and then Artur would be preparing a demo and looking forward to delivering that to you here in this forum. There is a PR in review to complete the delivery of the on-chain deployer ID. This is to the Rev Vault. This is an important part of supporting multisig, and that's the work that we would pick up as soon as this cost accounting work is done. We'll pick up the building blocks and start running with multisig work. There is a draft PR in for the ability to print unmatched SINs to standard out. This is as an effort that will support rolling debugging. And we're very much, as a development team, we're looking forward to having this in place. And my guess is that rolling developers would also enjoy this feature as well, and hoping to have it available in the release of RNode 9.10. The RNode team has work in progress to resolve a bug identified by a community member. We changed how we provided a password protected private key in the run command of RNode. It didn't carry over into the deploy. And so we want to make sure that anytime a user wants to use a password protected key, that they can, and that work is in progress. The Node and SRE teams are collaborating to take next steps on the investigation of issues related to things that we saw in testnet over the late last week and through the weekend. In a nutshell, what we observed were several validator nodes went down, and I mean, they died. They died very unexpectedly. They died in ways that they have not died before. Usually what we see is a node starts to struggle and it looks like it's working towards an out of memory error. We do have processes in place then to kill that node before it dies and then bring it back up, making use of the block store. These nodes didn't die that way. It was unexpected. They didn't leave any information behind after they died to help us understand why. So the teams are working together this week. A couple things are happening. One is we are Tamash is supporting more frequent automation of heap dumps, so that in the event that a node does die, the way that we observed it this weekend, we should have a fairly recent heap dump to take a look at to see what kind of memory issue it might have been having. And then we also have currently a PR in review and hope to get that in dev quite soon, which will give us more information about measuring of messages that node is receiving, whether they're messages that might be received, queued, or dropped, and trying to understand what's going on there. So basically, at this point, the investigation is we've added some tooling. We have also, as I mentioned earlier, increased the activity on the public testnet, and we will be using this tooling to hopefully recreate what we observed over the weekend, collect more information, and then have a better understanding of what happened and what we should do differently next time. The other thing that's not listed here that I will add is Tamash also intends to add additional alerts related to memory usage and CPU usage. So maybe we could catch it sooner before it happens. But one of the challenges of this is it's not that just one node went one validator went down. It was that several went down. And we don't want that when it comes to platform security and stability. And that's why we're taking this issue very seriously. There was a question in Discord earlier, or I guess over the weekend, when we observed this happening, is what would happen? Is this a slashable offense for a validator node? Should they go down unexpectedly like this? And the answer to that is probably not. That there is what we call lazy validator tests, so that you could test to see if a validator is online, and if they truly aren't online and they're not able to pass the lazy validator test, they are not slashed, they're ejected. And the key difference is slashing means loss of stake, and ejection means you're just removed from the bonding pool, and it's not a loss of stake. And that's what probably would have happened in this scenario in that way that these particular nodes died. Let me just pause there. Are there any questions about that?
Kelly, yeah, I just posted a question in the chat. Is the node validator themselves alerted to the potential of the node dying and the reasons for it before it dies?
Yeah, so that's an excellent question. So that's part of the node monitoring process. And so if you think, someone who is running a validating node needs to approach this as a node operator who wants to obviously monitor and maintain the node that they're running. Our SRE team has monitoring tools in place and systems and procedures in place to effectively operate and monitor a node. We intend, as a development team, to share best practices, to be able to show this is what we're doing, but there's no that's not part of the software. Well, that's not accurate. There's tooling in place in the software to effectively monitor a node, but the way that you choose to monitor and maintain your node could vary from validator to validator. But we as a development team are certainly able to share what we're doing and make some recommendations for best practices, but it's not something that would be the same from one validator to another necessarily. Does that answer your question?
I think that helps, yeah. But
Okay.
the SRE team is able to see ahead of time, are they not?
For the validators that they monitor. So so in the public testnet scenario, the SRE team monitors all of the validators. They're operating all of the validators, but you can imagine a platform where not all of the validators are managed by the cooperative. And in that scenario, unless validators get together and decide they want to share the information about the stability of their node, not necessarily.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Moving on. RSpace, we do have a PR in review to deliver Peak to Rolang. As a reminder, Peak is a critical thing that we are trying to deliver to support merging of conflicting blocks as it relates to the delivery of cost accounting. We also have work in progress to add more metrics and spans to RSpace, as well as in other components. Dom has a hunch that he may be able to deliver some really good metrics that help us look more completely at the platform. Right now, we're kind of limited to looking at Rolang or at comms or at Casper, but trying to build a bigger, more complete picture of what's happening on the platform as those components relate to one another would be very nice. And that this instrumentation would support, and the code will support the work that is intended for the optimization of RSpace, but it's also tooling that it would be in place in the code base for others to explore as well, related to other issues that we as a development team want to investigate, or as other people using the software might want to investigate as well. We do understand that there's a little bit of overhead to having this in the code base. Dom is proposing that we use a flag so we can turn it on and off and not have to accrue that overhead anytime someone is operating a node. Finally, we do have some blockage related in the SRE team related to delivering one of our hardening testing scenarios. We do have time planned early next week to have a more in-depth conversation with the dev team on this. And of course, the SRE team is constantly, daily, 24 hours a day, providing support not only for the public testnet, but also for our releases and work that the dev team is doing. Any other questions? All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kelly. That was great. I really appreciate that. So we have several updates for the members. One is that we had a board meeting yesterday. The board unanimously approved the appointment of a new director from the Chinese community. People on Discord know him as Dimworm. He has done a lot of work with respect to promoting Rolang, helping get a Rolang tutorial out, helping to get a example DApp out, a game-like DApp out, and in general has taken a very active role in making sure that we have engagement on the platform. So we're happy to welcome him to the board, and this is part of our overall strategy to make sure that there's representation on the board from each of the different constituent communities. In addition, the board has gone over its process with respect to the governance committee charter. That's posted. The most recent version is posted in the minutes. The board has given itself until the next board meeting to review, and there was sort of good discussion, but we'll take a final vote after the review process. Almost certainly there will be some amendments to the charter proposed by the board members already. So, but the board is taking an active stance with respect to the charter. So just want to let people know that the governance process is underway. And then we also presented, Christian is on the ground in Singapore at a conference organized by Thrust Capital, and we presented there. I have to say, every time I update my slides to talk about the motivations, the message just gets more and more dire. Last night I was speaking to the fact that Chennai, a city in India of 8 million people, is now entirely without water. 8 million people entirely without water. The hottest summer, the hottest June on record in recorded history, and the hottest temperatures in France ever seen in recorded history. And those are just a few of the updates that have come since I've been talking about this. So it is intended to be a message of hope. And yet every time I update it, I have to give more dire warnings as to why it is that we're taking this on. Hopefully the talk was well received. We've already been contacted by several parties who would like to discuss engagement with RChain in terms of investment. So thanks to Christian for facilitating those conversations. And so that's that. Let's see, I'm trying to think if there are any other major things. The DFI response was filed, and we'll be waiting to see what their next steps are. One thing that is important is in the argument to the DFI, one of the most important arguments to the DFI is that the token is decentralized. That position is considerably weakened if the co-op holds 50% of the supply. So we have to look very, very carefully at that, because it would be a major, major liability to have the token be deemed a security. So I had always been planning on having the co-op hold less than 50% of the supply as a means of securing this particular position. But we now have a legal opinion that makes this clear, and I am going to get our lawyers to be even more crisp in terms of that statement. But I want people to be thinking about that it's probably very disadvantageous to the cooperative from a regulatory compliance point of view to be holding 50% of the supply. I think that's about it in terms of our updates, the business updates. Are there any questions? Okay. Again, because of 4th of July weekend, we will not be having the RChain meeting on Friday, nor the members closed door session. Although we do have some very good news, but we'll save that for the next Friday. All right, unless there's any further topics of interest, I think we can yield back the time and wish everyone a happy Independence Day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ciao, ciao.
Bye, everyone.